Right now, you probably showered today, used soap maybe twice, and didn't think once about it. But for most of human history, that bar of soap didn't exist, and humans still had to deal with the same bodies, the same sweat, the same smell, and the further back you go, the more creative and disgusting the solutions get. So let's go back, all the way back, before soap, before water systems, before any of it. Early humans didn't wash. Not because they were lazy, because the concept of washing didn't exist yet. The first cleaning tool wasn't soap, it was sand. Coarse sand rubbed directly onto the skin, scraped off dead skin cells, dirt, and some bacteria with it. This technique, mechanical abrasion, is still used in modern exfoliants. The ancient human who rubbed sand on their skin was doing the same thing. A luxury spa charges $200 for today. Ash from fire was another early cleaning agent. Wood ash mixed with water creates a mild alkaline solution that can cut through grease and lift some dirt from skin. This matters, because ash and water is chemically very close to what soap actually is. Early humans were accidentally doing proto-chemistry without knowing it. Clay was also used packed onto the skin, left to dry, then scraped off, taking surface dirt with it, a technique still found in beauty routines today. Actual soap, the chemical kind, was discovered by accident, and the story of how is either brilliant or completely disgusting, depending on how you look at it. Ancient Romans noticed that the water running down from the Sapo Hill, where animals were sacrificed, had a strange quality. It made things cleaner. They started using it to wash clothes. What was happening chemically was this. Animal fat from the sacrifices was mixing with wood ash from the fires. Fat plus alkali equals soap. The Romans had stumbled onto saponification. The word soap itself comes from Sapo Hill. The place where animals were killed accidentally became the place that gave us the most fundamental cleaning product in human history. But the Romans didn't immediately start bathing with soap. They had a completely different cleaning method they preferred, and it involved olive oil and a metal scraper, the strigil, a curved metal tool used to scrape oil and dirt off the skin. You covered yourself in olive oil, waited for it to trap the dirt and sweat, then scraped everything off together. Rich Romans had slaves do this for them every morning, full body, considered the height of personal hygiene and sophistication. And then there were the bathhouses. The Roman thermae were not just places to wash, they were social centers, political arenas, and the most sophisticated public infrastructure of the ancient world. The largest Roman baths could hold over 3,000 people at once. They had heated floors, cold pools, hot pools, warm rooms, libraries, and food stalls. You went there to be clean, but also to conduct business, make friends, and be seen. When Rome fell, public bathing largely fell with it. Medieval Europe inherited Roman ruins and Roman roads, but somehow managed to leave the Roman concept of regular bathing behind entirely. Medieval Europe's relationship with cleaning is one of the most misunderstood chapters in history. The popular image is that nobody washed for 1,000 years. That's not quite true, but it's not entirely wrong either. Most ordinary people in medieval Europe washed their faces and hands daily. Full body washing happened occasionally, sometimes monthly, sometimes seasonally, sometimes barely at all. Hot water was expensive. Fuel to heat it was scarce. A full bath required enormous amounts of both. For most people, a full bath was a luxury they simply couldn't afford regularly. Soap existed in medieval Europe, but it was expensive and considered a luxury item. Most soap was imported from Castile in Spain or Marseille in France, where olive oil and alkali were both available. The church complicated things further. Several influential theologians argued that excessive bodily cleanliness was a sign of spiritual vanity, focusing too much on the flesh rather than the soul. Some saints were specifically celebrated for never washing. Saint Godric reportedly hadn't bathed in decades. Saint Abraham of Kidun avoided water for 50 years. This was considered holy, not horrifying. But here's the historical nuance most people miss. Even without soap, medieval people used herbs, plants, and flowers constantly, not just for smell, but for genuine antimicrobial properties. Lavender, rosemary, and thyme all have real antibacterial properties. Medieval people didn't know the science, but they observed the results, and these plants became embedded in cleaning traditions across Europe. While medieval Europe was debating whether washing was sinful, the Islamic world was centuries ahead in hygiene technology. Islamic religious law required ritual cleanliness before prayer 5 times daily. This made sophisticated soap production not just a luxury, but a religious necessity. By the 9th century, Islamic chemists had developed solid bar soap very close to what we use today, made with vegetable oils, aromatic plants, and precise alkali ratios. Scented, colored, specialized for hair, skin, and shaving. The hammam, the Islamic bathhouse, was in many ways more sophisticated than the Roman thermae it replaced. Regular cleaning was expected, structured, and communal. The kessa, a rough scrubbing mitt, was used in the hammam to scrub dead skin away after steaming. The amount of skin that came off apparently shocked first-time visitors. It still does today. The Renaissance brought bathing back into fashion in Europe, partly through trade with the Islamic world, partly through rediscovering Roman texts, partly just through wealthy people deciding they wanted to smell better. Perfume became increasingly important in Europe, not just for pleasure, but as a practical tool for masking what wasn't being washed away. If you couldn't clean it, you could at least cover it. Queen Elizabeth I reportedly bathed once a month. She was considered remarkably clean for her era. Her predecessor Henry VIII famously stank, even by the standards of a time when stinking was normal. Soap production began industrializing in the 17th and 18th centuries. Cities like Marseille, Castile, and Bristol became soap manufacturing centers, and soap slowly became cheaper and more available. But even with cheaper soap, most people still didn't wash regularly. Habit, cold water, cost, and the simple absence of bathrooms kept most Europeans washing infrequently well into the 1800s. The real turning point wasn't cheap soap, it was germ theory. In the 1840s, a Hungarian doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis noticed that doctors who washed their hands before delivering babies had dramatically lower patient death rates. His colleagues rejected this idea completely. The thought that invisible particles on a doctor's hands could kill patients seemed absurd. Semmelweis was ridiculed, lost his job, and eventually died in a mental institution. Louis Pasteur proved germ theory in the 1860s, Joseph Lister applied it to surgery, and suddenly hand washing went from a strange personal habit to a medical mandate that saved millions of lives. The soap industry immediately understood what this meant for business. If soap didn't just clean but protected against invisible killers, suddenly everyone needed it, not as a luxury, as survival. Pear's Soap in England ran one of the first modern advertising campaigns, specifically linking soap to health, civilization, and respectability. Within a generation, daily washing had gone from luxury to social expectation. So what is soap actually doing? Because it's not just washing dirt off. The chemistry is more interesting than most people realize. Water alone can't clean grease. Grease and water repel each other. You've seen this oil floats on water, never mixes. Soap is the molecule that bridges this gap. A soap molecule has two ends. One end loves water. The other end loves oil. When you wash, the oil-loving end grabs the grease. The water-loving end faces outward. And when you rinse, the water carries the whole structure away. This is why soap works on germs too. Viruses and bacteria are often coated in a fatty lipid layer. The soap molecule grabs that layer, breaks the germ open, and the water rinses it away. Soap doesn't just clean germs, it destroys them. This is why hand washing for 20 seconds works so well against viruses. The soap has time to find every surface, break every fatty coating, and the water rinses all of it away. 20 seconds isn't arbitrary, it's chemistry. Today, the global soap and body wash market is worth over $55 billion annually, from accidental animal fat on a Roman hillside to a $55 billion industry in 2,000 years. But something interesting happened along the way. The soap industry grew so large that it needed to keep selling, and once everyone was already using soap, it had to convince people they needed more of it. The concept of body odor as a social problem was largely invented by soap and deodorant companies in the early 20th century. Before the advertising campaigns, most people didn't consider natural body smell a source of social shame. The advertising worked. Within a generation, body odor went from normal to shameful. The market for soap, deodorant, and personal hygiene products exploded. An entirely new category of social anxiety had been manufactured. So from sand and ash to animal fat on a Roman hill to Islamic chemistry to germ theory to a $55 billion industry that invented new problems to solve soap's journey is really a story about how humans understand cleanliness. And that understanding has changed dramatically in every era. Sometimes the change came from science, sometimes from religion, sometimes from marketing, and often from all three at once. The next time you reach for soap without thinking about it, remember that for most of human history, that automatic gesture didn't exist. Generations of people solved the same problem with sand, ash, fat, herbs, and a great deal of patience. So tell me, out of everything in this video, which method would you least like to try? The ash paste, the oil scraper, or the hammam kessa? Comment below.